spoke those words in a whisper while standing nude with one foot up on the bench in front of the full-length mirror, my body vibrating with need and anxieties. I had never experienced Richard's raw hunger in my eyes before he touched me, not even on our wedding night. Troy walked up behind me, his chest brushing my back, his hands resting on my hips, and I saw both of us in the mirror. Me flushed and wide open, him towering and dangerous. I had never done anything like this in my life, but at that moment, I didn't care. I needed to feel alive. I needed to feel wanted. He leaned down and whispered something filthy into my ear, and when his hand slid between my thighs, I didn't stop him, I welcomed it. My wedding ring glinted in the mirror, and yet I never once thought about Richard. I thought about me. Thank you to all my subscribers. Your love and support keeps this channel burning bright. Now, let us go back to where it all started. My name is Madison. I live in a quiet neighborhood in New Jersey. I am 37 years old, married to Richard, a man I once thought was everything for over 11 years. I cooked his meals, ironed his shirts, smiled at his clients, and kept our home looking like a magazine spread, but inside I was starving. Not for food, not for money. We had plenty of that. I was starving for affection, for touch, for passion. Richard had become married to his job. His love for me existed only in old anniversary cards and half-hearted pecks on my cheek. One day, I looked at myself in the mirror and asked, when did I stop mattering? I joined a gym not because I wanted to lose weight. I just wanted to be seen again, noticed, desired. That was when I met Troy. He was the gym's personal trainer, young, black, tall, and built like a Greek god, with tattoos running down his arms and a voice that could melt ice. The first day I walked in, he gave me a once-over that lingered a little too long, and I loved it. Our first session was innocent, mostly stretches, some laughs, and light conversation, but there was something in the way he touched my waist, when he corrected my posture, something electric. I was wearing yoga pants too tight for someone my age, but that did not seem to bother him. The sessions continued twice a week and turned into 4. He started texting me motivational messages, then flirty emojis. I responded first with hesitation, then with eagerness. One rainy afternoon, after everyone had left the gym, he asked if I wanted to stay a little longer. I said yes. We went into the staff room. He played some music. I sat on the edge of the table, pretending to scroll through my phone. He leaned against the wall, arms folded, watching me. That was when I decided to push the limits. I stood up, walked toward the mirror, and slowly pulled my leggings down. I took off my top and my bra. I turned slightly, looking at him through the reflection. I spread my legs wide open. Do you like what you see? He did not answer with words. He walked over and placed his hands on my thighs. He pulled me closer to the mirror. I could feel every heartbeat echo in my chest as his hands explored parts of me that had been untouched for years. He kissed me with urgency, his lips rough, his grip tighter than Richard's had ever been. We did not make love. No, we devoured each other, and I did not stop him, not even when my phone buzzed with Richard's name afterwards. As I sat on the gym floor trying to catch my breath, Troy handed me a towel, grinning. "Next time, do not wear panties," he said. I laughed and hated myself for loving it, but deep down I knew something dangerous had started, and I had no plans of stopping it. There was no going back. After that afternoon in the gym, something inside me snapped open a door I had kept shut for years, and once it opened, I ran through it with reckless abandon. I was no longer the good wife, the homemaker, or the obedient companion. I was something else now, someone else. I became a woman consumed by lust, driven by thrill, and dangerously addicted to being seen again. Troy had awakened that part of me, and like a flame licking at gasoline, he did not just light it, he fed it. Every time Richard traveled, which was often, I found myself at Troy's place. It started innocently enough, short visits, a glass of wine, conversation, but they never stayed innocent. His apartment was small, cluttered, and smelled like cologne and sweat. His sheets were never really clean, but I never cared once I walked through that door. I shed every part of my former self like a coat I was tired of wearing. He made me do things I never imagined, on his couch in his kitchen, even once in the back seat of his car at midnight behind the gym. It was raw, unfiltered, explosive, but it was never gentle, and still I begged for more. There were nights I stood in the bathroom after being with him, staring at myself in the mirror with tear-stained cheeks, not out of guilt but confusion. I did not recognize the woman in the reflection, but I also could not bring myself to stop. Richard had begun to notice that I was becoming aloof at home, always on my phone, and out with the girls. He began asking me things like, "You look different lately." And one evening after dinner, I shrugged and grinned, saying, "Maybe I'm just feeling good." He nodded when I finally focused on myself, but his eyes lingered on me longer than usual. I could sense that suspicion was creeping into our once silent marriage, but the truth was that I had gone too far to care. The affair with Troy had become more than just physical, and I started wanting his attention outside of the bedroom. I texted Troy when I was depressed, bored, or lonely, telling him things I used to tell Richard about my fears, regrets, and dreams, and for a while he listened. But then something changed. Troy started to distance himself, not completely, but enough for me to sense it. He stopped our regular gym sessions more frequently, and when I did come over, he was preoccupied with his phone and watching TV. At times, I felt like a visitor in a place that used to feel like an escape. I asked him one night, "Is something wrong?" "No, just tired of you overthinking again." But I knew something was off, so I ignored it. He said with a sly smile after glancing at me, "I wore lingerie I never dared to wear for Richard, gave him gifts, cooked for him, and clung to him even more." Then came the night that broke everything down. It was a Friday, and I had once again lied to Richard, telling him I was having a girl seldom glanced up from his laptop during the night out. So I took it as a sign and went to Troy's place, feeling excited and even anxious like a teenager. Slinking out, he opened the door shirtless, but his face was unreadable and icy. He only murmured, "Come in," and went back inside. My heart was pounding as I stepped in to give him a kiss, but he retreated, asking, "What's wrong?" When I inquired, he sat on the couch and looked at me before turning his phone toward me and tapping the screen. I froze, my skin turned cold, my mouth opened, but nothing came out, and he halted the video to gaze at me. It was a video of me kneeling naked in front of him, groaning his name, my face, my wedding ring, and my entire body in full view. I moved back, trembling, "And you videotaped me because you assumed I was simply smashing and forgetting. I don't know who you are. You're not the first housewife to attempt to play with fire, but you burned very well, baby." I wanted to shout, I wanted to beat him, but all I could do was ask, "Why?" He got up and towered over me once more, but this time there was only control. In his eyes, instead of seduction, because women like you believe you are untouchable. Wealthy husbands with large homes and perfect lives, so you come slumming with guys like me for fun. But now that I own you, he grinned, "Unless you want your husband, or perhaps your entire neighborhood to see this, you will do what I say." I backed away, tears streaming down my face, panic rising in my chest, and he laughed. "You are blackmailing me, sweetheart." That night, I did not go home. I parked my car 2 blocks away from my house and cried until the sun came up. The guilt, the shame, the fear, it all came crashing down at once. But more than that, I was horrified to realize something darker. A part of me still wanted him. That was the most terrifying truth. There is a special kind of silence that follows destruction. It is not peaceful. It is heavy, suffocating, like the air just before a thunderstorm breaks the sky open. That was the kind of silence that lived in my home after Troy blackmailed me. I no longer belonged to myself. Every move I made felt watched. Every smile I gave Richard felt fake. I would sit at the dinner table and pretend to be whole, but I was crumbling inside. I could barely hold eye contact with my husband. He started noticing, and unlike before, he no longer brushed it off. One evening, Richard sat down, put down his fork, looked across the table, and said, "Madison, are you sleeping with someone else?" I choked on my wine. I coughed. I wiped my mouth. My hands trembled. I said nothing. His jaw clenched. His voice lowered. "Tell me the truth." I opened my mouth to lie, but it came out before I could stop it. Yes, it was the first time in my entire marriage I had spoken something so cruel, so raw, and so honest. I expected him to shout, to flip the table, to hit me, but he did none of that. He simply sat there silent. Then he nodded, slowly, stood up and walked out of the dining room. I sat there alone for hours. By morning he had packed a bag and was gone, but that was not the end. It was only the beginning. Troy had not stopped. The video was his weapon, and he made sure I never forgot it. He began texting me orders, like I was a puppet. "Come over tonight, wear that black lace thong, record yourself begging for me." I hated him, but I obeyed. I told myself I was protecting my reputation, my name, and my husband's dignity. But the truth was uglier. I was addicted, not just to Troy, but to the danger and to the twisted power of being desired, used, and controlled. Then one night I showed up at his apartment and saw a pair of red stilettos at the door, lipstick on a wine glass, and a bra on the floor. My stomach dropped. He came out of the bedroom shirtless, grinning, and reeking of sex and sweat. "You are early," he said. I stared at him. "You had someone else here." He laughed. "You think I belong to you now?" A blonde woman peeked from behind him, giggled, and then disappeared. Back into the bedroom, he looked me in the eye and said, "You are just one of many, Madison. Nothing special, just the easiest to break." Something inside of me broke at that moment, and I left the apartment without shoes, got into my car, and drove aimlessly until the sky turned black, and the only light I had left was from the headlights. I ended up in front of Richard's sister's house, and I had no plan other than pain. I knocked, and she opened the door and froze when she saw me. I walked in and broke down, telling her everything, every dirty, twisted, humiliating truth, and she listened coldly until I was done, and she said, "You did this to yourself, Madison." "I know," I nodded. She handed me a guest blanket, sent me to the couch, and left me alone that night. As I couldn't sleep, I thought about Richard and the years we had spent creating a life together. The guy who never once deceived me, never raised his voice or turned his back. I reflected on the portions of myself that I had concealed, the noises I had made in another man's arms, and the falsehoods I had said. I thought about how I had devolved into a woman with nothing left but a destroyed home, a ruined soul, and a sex tape on someone else's phone after giving away for attention. The final blow occurred on a Sunday morning when Richard arrived to gather the rest of his belongings. He entered the house like a stranger, and I wanted to apologize and explain, but nothing I said would make things better. He packed in silence at the door, and when I said, "I'm sorry, Richard," he looked at me for a long time before saying, "You looked me in the eyes every day and lied. You kissed me with his scent still on your skin. You slept in our bed after being used like a rag. You let another man inside you and still came home pretending to be my wife." Then he left, and all of a sudden, the life I had built for 20 years fell apart in front of me. I deleted Troy's number and changed my phone, but the scars will always be with me. Sometimes I wake up sweating, and occasionally I feel phantom hands on my body, Troy's hands. I despise him and despise myself. I frequently sit in the dark and whisper the words I once moaned in delight, but now speak in regret. Do you like what you see? Because when I look in the mirror now, I don't. And perhaps that is the real punishment.